Today, I'm back with another meal prep video, so welcome to my kitchen. Spend some time with me. Today, we're just doing a real live meal prep, so nothing fancy. I just looked in my fridge and I said, what do I have that we can make? So we're going to be making some chorizo chili, which turned out really delicious. I'm also going to be making some cupcakes, which I realize is odd for meal prep, but I needed to use up some things. I'm also making some steak burrito bowls for a lunch meal prep. I'm going to be washing up my produce, prepping a keto cauliflower bake, making some jalapeno poppers, and some breakfast bowls. All of that and more in today's video. All right, so we are gonna prep some of this chorizo chili with tomatillos and black beans. I've got some cilantro here, onion, black beans, chili spice blend, some crushed tomatillos, tomato paste, Greek yogurt, that's for topping it, some chorizo sausage, and some diced tomatoes. And this is a Sunbasket meal. I do buy their boxes every once in a while to do lunch meal prep. I just think that they have some really neat ideas and different recipes. So I'll link their site down below. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just like to try different services so I can tell you guys how I like them. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and dice up my onion because we're gonna saute this with the chorizo. Okay, so I'm gonna add my diced red onion. And I'm gonna add my chorizo. Okay, so now that the chorizo is mostly cooked, I'm gonna go ahead and add my chili spice blend. And then I'm gonna add the tomato paste and just stir that around until everything is combined. Okay, so I'm gonna add my diced tomatoes. About 2 cups of water, the crushed tomatillos, and I went ahead and rinsed and drained the black beans, so I'm gonna add those as well. I'm also gonna add a little bit of chopped cilantro. I'm gonna stir this up. All right, so here is our completed chorizo chili. This turned out so good. I really loved the addition of the tomatillos. It kind of just gives it like that bright flavor. I did season this up with some extra salt and pepper just to make sure the seasoning was right for us. And I'm going to divide this into 2 containers, although these were really, really large portions and I probably should have divided it into 3. I did already eat this for lunch one day this week and it was delightful. I had it with some tortilla chips and some cheese and that Greek yogurt and sour cream on the top. So highly recommend this. It's really great for meal prep because chili gets better as it sits in the fridge, as you know. So here's how I pack this up. I love these glass containers for reheating items in, especially things with tomato sauce because they don't stain. And then we had our little containers with Greek yogurt and cilantro. I want to take a quick break to thank Fuzzy for sponsoring today's meal prep video. If you guys have a pet, you know that they're part of your family. We have been dog owners for over 20 years, and Fuzzy is an awesome telehealth service for pet parents that offers 24/7 access to personalized pet care from veterinary professionals. How awesome is that? There is nothing that compares to having a pet, and we know that we want to keep them healthy and make them as happy as they make us. If you've ever spent hours Googling how to care for your pet, like why is my cat sneezing so much, or what to do when your dog eats a stick of butter, you can skip crowdsourcing recommendations from forums, social media, and get answers immediately with Fuzzy. From everyday questions to middle of the night emergencies, Fuzzy has the answers pet parents need through live chat and virtual vet consultations available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Fuzzy can answer your pet questions, both big and small, urgent, and every day. They can also recommend the exact right products for your pet, which I think is fantastic. And you get discounts that are only exclusive to Fuzzy members. So from getting your pet's diet just right to meeting their middle of the night needs to finally figuring out what makes their breath smell that way, nothing is too big or small for a quick Fuzzy call. In fact, I was just chatting with them the other day because I wanted to start making some homemade dog food for Murphy, and I had some questions about vitamins that I should be using, and they were super helpful. If you guys have a pet, you know that
sometimes things happen in the middle of the night or on the weekend when vets aren't available. And like where I live in the Midwest, we don't have emergency vet services around here. Probably the closest one is 50 minutes away. So it's super convenient to have that resource available. The best part is right now, Fuzzy is offering my subscribers a free 7-day trial membership. So you can go to yourfuzzy.com/Jen today to sign up. That's a free 7-day trial. Plus you get access to exclusive member discounts on pet meds, supplements, food, and more at yourfuzzy.com/Jen. Again, it's yourfuzzy.com/Jen for your free trial of Fuzzy with access to 24/7 personalized pet care and vet recommended products.
Okay, so I'm gonna prep some of this skirt steak. My thought is that I'm gonna use this Carne Asada rub that one of you guys sent me to my P.O. box. Thank you very much. So I think I'm just gonna put this rub on, let it sit in the fridge for a few hours, and then sear this. And my thought is that maybe we'll make some rice and do like some steak burrito bowl prep for the week. Okay, so I've got my beef in a bowl here. I'm just gonna add a couple glugs of avocado oil, and then I'm gonna sprinkle the seasoning on. This is 2 8-ounce strip steaks, so this particular packet of seasoning makes 1 pound, so it's perfect. Okay, so I'm just gonna rub these and make sure they're all coated, and then stick these in the fridge for a couple hours so they get some of that seasoning on them before we cook them. So I'm gonna go ahead and cook up this, is it flank steak, strip steak? I don't know what it is, but anyway, this was marinated in the Carne Asada rub. So I've got a pan here that I just heated up with a little bit of avocado oil, and I'm gonna sear this on either side probably for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, so I have the exhaust fan on because that got super smoky, but here is my steak that I seared. So I'm gonna let this rest for probably a while, probably a good 30 minutes before I cut it up.
Okay, so once the steak was done resting and it was cool, I'm just going to slice it really thinly. Skirt steak does tend to be a little bit tougher, so you want to make sure that you slice it against the grain. That just means that it will be more tender that way. And I'm going to show you how I ended up making this for my lunch. It turned out really, really good, but I highly recommend this particular method. You could do it with chicken or pork or even shrimp or beef, whatever you wanted to, and it's a super quick idea for a midweek lunch. So I stored my steak in the fridge, and this is what I made for lunch one day, so I wanted to share it with you guys. So there is my steak. I'm going to be combining this in a bowl with some corn. I just have some canned corn here from my pantry. I have this bag of Cuban black beans that is really, really good. I'm going to mix those in with this multi-grain rice medley, and honestly, it took me like 10 minutes to put this lunch together, and it was really healthy and delicious. If you don't work from home and you're like taking your lunch to your office or your work site somewhere, you can obviously prep this beforehand. I would just leave the cold ingredients separate, like the sour cream. So I'm going to put some avocado oil in a skillet and heat that up. And meanwhile, I'm just going to heat the beans and the rice up in the microwave. Super convenient that way. And then I'm just going to put about half a cup of the steak into the skillet. And then I'm going to add a little bit of corn as well. Not too much, but I thought that it would give it a little bit of extra flavor. And then once everything is done, I can build my burrito bowl. So I'm going to put the rice multigrain medley in the bottom. And next I'm going to add some of those Cuban black beans. If you ever find those, they're really good. I highly recommend them. They're delicious. Just the right amount of spice. And then I'm going to add my steak and corn mixture. So you can obviously top this with whatever you want. I just kind of used what I had on hand in my refrigerator. So I put some shredded cheese on there. I'm also going to add some sour cream, and then I had some avocado that I wanted to start getting used up. So I cut that in half and just diced it and added it to the bowl on top. And then the next thing that I'm going to add is some salsa and some cilantro and some lime juice. And that is it. We got takeout from a Tex-Mex restaurant couple nights ago, so gotta have that leftover salsa. It's delicious. Okay, so here is how my burrito bowl turned out. Really, really good. Highly recommend this. One of my favorite lunches, to be honest. And like I said, you could definitely prep this before and take it to work if you wanted to, but really good and healthy. Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna make is some cupcakes, and I know this is weird for a meal prep, but bear with me. So I had this Birch Benders cake mix that I got. I can't remember if I got it from like Misfits Market or one of those subscription boxes, but I wanted to try it out because I'm trying to use some things from my pantry. So I have all the ingredients here to make the cake, plus I'm going to make some cream cheese frosting for the cupcakes because, yep, you guessed it, I have a package of cream cheese in my fridge that I need to use up. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the cake mix. This is a smaller cake mix in volume than like a traditional boxed cake mix is. This made about 14 cupcakes, which is honestly just perfect if you ask me. So I'm gonna go ahead and crack my eggs into the bowl and give those a whisk. I'm using my Danish dough whisk, which I really, really like for mixing up muffin batter and bread batter and cake batter and things like that. I'm gonna add my oil and then also some water to the mix, and then I'll go ahead and add the cake mix as well. So this cake mix is basically like a more, I guess, organic, all natural, whatever. It's still cake, but I will say that it's not quite as light and airy as a traditional like Duncan Hines boxed cake mix is, but it's still good. It just makes a little bit more dense cupcakes. So I'm using my new muffin tins that I got from Costco. I love them. They're so shiny and beautiful. And then I'm just gonna put some cupcake liners in there. You guys know, if you've watched any of my meal prep videos, my cupcake liner situation is always hilarious because I never have the right season. I have all these Christmas cupcake liners, you know, just like random ones, purple ones, Batman ones. I used to pack a lot of themed lunches for my kids. In fact, when I first started posting like food and lifestyle content here on YouTube, I did a lot of school lunch videos, but that's when my kids were younger and they thought that kind of stuff was cool. And now there's no way Kira's going to middle school with like a Shopkins themed lunch. So I still have all these supplies to use, but once those were in the cupcake tin, I'm gonna go ahead and put the batter into the liners. I'm just using an ice cream scoop because I find that is the neatest way to do it, although I still did get some cake batter on the muffin tin because I can never just be neat about anything. Okay, so after my batter is in the tins, I'm gonna go ahead and pop those into the oven, and these did bake for about 20 minutes. I found that I had to bake them a little bit longer than some of the traditional cake mixes that I use, but after those cooled, I'm gonna go ahead and make the frosting. So I'm just using a basic recipe for cream cheese frosting. I did cut it in half because I wanted to use half of the cream cheese for this and half for the jalapeno poppers that I'm going to make. That's a tip, honestly, for meal prep in and of itself, is to choose ingredients that you can use for multiple meals. It's just very time saving that way. So to this bowl, I have a half a stick of softened butter in there, half a brick of cream cheese, 1 cup of powdered sugar, and just a splash of vanilla. And I'm just gonna whip that up with my hand mixer until everything is combined and creamy. You wanna make sure you use softened butter and softened cream cheese when you are making cream cheese frosting. Otherwise, it will not combine together and you will have lumpy frosting. Okay, so another tip I have for you is make sure that your cupcakes are completely cool before you frost these. Otherwise, the frosting will melt all over and you will have a mess on your hands. You can see that this particular cupcake mix, it did not rise up much. Like I said, these are a much like denser, more compact cupcake than some of like the more traditional, you know, Duncan Hines or Betty Crocker boxed mixes. But it's always fun to try new products, right? And I'm trying to get items used up in my pantry, so that is fine. My kids are actually going to be getting out for spring break soon, so I thought these would be fun to have for them after school when they get home. I will probably end up freezing some or giving some away to neighbors just because that's quite a few cupcakes and we're not going to be able to eat them all within the next couple days. So I have a confession to make, and that is that I don't really like sprinkles. I know, right? I just don't. I don't care for them. I don't know why. I just think they taste like chalk. But hey, my kids like sprinkles, and that's who I'm making these cupcakes for anyway. Well, I'm telling you, I did taste one, obviously, so I could tell you guys how they were. But I had these multicolored sprinkles. I don't know what they're left over for, but it comes in a tub so big that no one will ever use them. So here we are. I'm just sprinkling a few of those onto the top of each one. And here are my completed cupcakes. How fun are these? Again, not really something that you would traditionally meal prep, but just something fun for the kids. And it's always fun to make cupcakes. Making cupcakes makes me happy. I don't know why, but it does. Okay, so now I'm going to get started washing and prepping some of my produce. So it's been a while since I've used this over the sink strainer contraption, which I really, really like. And honestly, I kind of forgot about it. It was in the back of one of my cupboards. And when I was cleaning out, I was like, hey, why don't I use this? So I just have this over the sink and I'm going to wash some of my berries. So I have some blackberries and some blueberries that I'm just going to rinse off. This particular strainer is really great for when you want to wash produce that you don't want to soak in water. And honestly, I mean, I soak berries in water all the time. I get a lot of questions on how I wash my produce. And I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes I use vinegar, sometimes I don't. I basically just do what I feel like doing on that particular day. The important thing is that it gets washed, right? So I'm just going to rinse these off and then I will kind of let them sit over the sink and dry a little bit before I pack them up. Okay, so for my strawberries, I do usually like to soak those because I find that there are more nooks and crannies to get dirt in, and they just tend to be dirtier overall. So I just run some cold water into my salad spinner. I will link both the salad spinner I have and that over the sink strainer in or on Amazon. I'll link them down below, but I like to spray my strawberries down and soak them in a little bit of vinegar, probably for about 10 minutes. And then I just give them a really good rinse under cold water to make sure that all the vinegar is off. And then I'll put them in a container. So I have a couple different produce keepers that I use. I did have some from, I think they were Martha Stewart brand, that were not dishwasher safe. And I honestly got rid of them. I gave them to Goodwill because I just feel like now that I have a dishwasher, I just want things that I can wash in the dishwasher and not have to hand wash. Like, I already have enough dishes that I have to hand wash. I don't need any more. This particular container, I think I got it on Amazon. I'm not sure. I actually don't think this one is dishwasher safe either, but I do like it because it has a divider down the middle so you can put like different types of produce in there. All this to say that I just got some in my last Costco haul that I really, really like. I'll link that video down below, but the reason I love them is because you can put them in the dishwasher. And I was just like texting a friend the other day about, you know, produce keepers and dishwashing. You know, these are the things that we talk about when we're almost 40 years old. But she was like, yeah, if it's not hand washable, if it's hand washable, I don't want it. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I kind of feel the same way, although there are some things that I have that I can't put in there. But I have not had really a nice working dishwasher until we moved into this house about 4 to 5 years ago now. So I've spent plenty of time hand washing dishes in my life. So it's nice now to have something that works consistently. In our previous house, we did have a dishwasher, but it was quite old. And it was one of those that you really had to kind of pre-wash everything before you put it in there, which to me defeats the purpose. And then in our first house, we did have a super, super cheap dishwasher. And it ended up that we used it for a while and then couldn't use it anymore because we had really hard water. And at that point in time, we really couldn't afford to get a water softener, and hard water will ruin your appliances. And so, yeah, that's my story. That's my story about dishwashers that no one asked to hear. Once I got done cutting up all of my strawberries, I am going to go ahead and just put the blackberries on top of the strawberries. The blackberries and strawberries will go, I don't want to say they'll go moldy, but they'll get mushy pretty quickly in the fridge. So you do want to probably eat them within 2 to 3 days if you can. The great thing about washing berries and stuff is that you can freeze them if you don't eat them right away. So that's nice. And then in the other container, I'm just going to put the blueberries, and hopefully my kids will get through these in the next couple of days. They normally do. If not, I can freeze them, or I also have been using them for breakfast with granola and yogurt for myself. Okay, so next I'm going to wash up some cauliflower, and technically this cauliflower was pre-washed. I got it in a bag from Costco, but I haven't used it yet. And sometimes if I don't use produce right away, I don't know. I just like to wash wash it before I use it, even though it says it's pre-washed. But the reason why I am washing up this cauliflower is because I'm going to prep a low carb cauliflower bake, which I'll show you in a little bit. So while the cauliflower is soaking, I'm going to go ahead and wash off my tomatoes. I think I ended up spraying the lens of the camera during this shot, so I'm sorry about that. Clearly I can't have anything nice. But once those tomatoes were rinsed off, I'm going to add them to another one of my produce containers. I'll link this one down below as well. Now I have some broccoli that I want to get cleaned up too. Basically, I was just focusing on trying to prep all of my produce this weekend. And as you can see, sometimes by my outfit changes, I did this over the course of several days, but that's the way it is sometimes. And honestly, as long as I can get it all done and we can get the produce eaten, that's the main thing, right? If I don't prep it, then it just has more chance of sitting there and us not eating it. And this broccoli we'll probably use for a side dish for dinner one night. Or I also have one of those packets of Bear Creek soup mix. I got one on sale for like 99 cents at Hy-Vee. It's a broccoli cheese one. And there's a recipe on the back. You can obviously just make them using water, but if you want to kind of jazz it up a little bit, you can add your own like carrots and onions and broccoli to it. So that's probably what I'm going to end up using this for. Okay, so for my broccoli, I'm just going to put that in the salad spinner and run some cold water over it. Broccoli is another thing that sometimes tends to be really dirty because dirt and bugs and whatever can get trapped in between. I don't know what they're called, like the little buds of the broccoli, because it's like so tightly packed together. So once that was washed, I'm just going to pop it into a Ziploc bag and we're going to move on with the cauliflower bake. So this recipe for, I think it's like a keto cauliflower casserole bake. I don't even know what it's called, but I'll link it down below. I've made this several times on my channel and we don't really necessarily eat low carb all the time, obviously, hence the cupcakes I'm making in this video. However, I do really like to make this dish for a side for dinner. Adam and I really both like it. My kids are like kind of meh. They're not, I don't know. They like plain steamed cauliflower, but this isn't their favorite thing. But anyway, I'm just taking the cauliflower that I washed and I'm cutting that into uniform florets. And you want to do this because a cauliflower does take a while to cook in the oven. So you want to make sure that you have bite-sized pieces and that they are as equal sized as possible so that they all cook the same. And then once the cauliflower is in the dish, I'm just going to melt some butter in the microwave, just about 3 tablespoons, and pour that over the cauliflower. I toss it with salt and pepper. And at this point, if you were making this dish in real time, you would put it in the oven and roast it for about 20 minutes. But since I am prepping this, I'm going to go ahead and prep the cauliflower separately, and then I'm going to prep the sauce separately. And then all I have to do during the week is assemble it, bake it, and it just saves so much time, even just, doing these little steps on the weekend. So I need cheese for a couple different recipes or dishes that I'm doing in this meal prep video. The first is I need some cheese for the cauliflower bake, and then I also need some for the breakfast bowls that I'm making. So I have this big hunk of Tillamook cheese, cheddar cheese that I got at Costco that I'm trying to work my way through. So I'm just going to shred this myself on a box grater. Sometimes I use my food processor, but sometimes I don't feel like dirtying it, even though I can't put it in the dishwasher. So for today, I'm just going to shred this by hand. Okay, so for the sauce for the cauliflower bake, I'm going to go ahead and put some sour cream in a bowl. This recipe is super, super simple and it turns out really, really good. I highly recommend you try it if you like cheesy cauliflower. For some reason, I can remember like either my mom or my grandma or somebody making cheesy cauliflower soup when I was a kid and really liking it. So I'm going to see if I can find a recipe for that. But anyway, I'm going to put about 2/3 of a cup of sour cream in my bowl here. Yes, this is a vintage Pyrex bowl for those of you asking. I think my grandma gave it to me. And the recipe calls for heavy cream. I usually don't have that on hand, so I just use milk or half and half and it works out fine. And then you just want to whisk the sour cream and the milk together until it's smooth. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start getting some bacon cooked, and we're going to be using part of this for the cauliflower bake, and we're also going to be using part of it for the breakfast bowls. I did also reserve about 8 pieces of bacon out of this package to make the jalapeno poppers that I'll show you in a second. So I just have a nonstick skillet here and I am adding my bacon to that, and I'm just going to crisp it and cook it over medium heat until it is done. If I have my stuff together, a lot of times I do like to cook my bacon in the oven too on like a cooking rack on a cookie sheet, but I didn't really have time to do that today. It does take a little bit longer in the oven. Okay, so back to the sauce for the cauliflower. I am going to add some garlic to this. spice, just a couple cloves. These cloves were actually super small, so I probably put 3 or 4 in there. If you don't have fresh garlic on hand, you could use garlic powder. I highly recommend fresh garlic though. It makes it taste really good. So I'm just going to crush that in. Next, I'm going to add about a cup of the shredded cheese and then season it with salt and pepper. And you do want to reserve some of the shredded cheese to sprinkle on the top of the casserole as well. Okay, so here my bacon is done cooking, and I'm just going to remove that to a paper plate that I have lined with a paper towel. And as it cools, it will crisp up a little bit more, and then we will chop it up for our recipes. The last ingredient for the sauce is some chopped green onion. I had pretty slim pickings in my house. There were some green onions in my produce drawer that were like a little worse for the wear, so I just had to improvise and use what I had, but I just chopped some of those up and added them to the sour cream mixture. So after my bacon is done, I'm going to go ahead and give that a rough chop. I'm going to end up using probably about a third of this for the cauliflower, and then I'm going to use a third of it in the breakfast bowls. So I'm just going to give Murphy a bite because, you know, he has to have a little bit. He has to have a little tiny bite of bacon too. He's always at my feet when I'm cooking in the kitchen. I mean, like 99% of the time, depending on what I'm cooking. And definitely when he smells bacon or other types of meat, he's out there stalking me. Okay, so here are the ingredients for the cauliflower bake that I'm going to assemble later in the week. So I have my cauliflower tossed with the butter, salt, and pepper ready to roast. I've got my sauce all ready to go and my green onions and my bacon. So all I have to do when it's time to make this is roast the cauliflower, pour the sauce over the top, bake it some more, top it with cheese, bacon, and green onion, and boom, we're done. Next, I'm going to make some breakfast bowls. I bought a bag of hash browns at Walmart and I wanted to use these up, and everyone loves these, so I decided to make it. So I just used the same pan that I cooked the bacon in. I did pour out all of the bacon grease and wipe it out, but I'm just going to add my frozen potato cubes to there. I had some butter in the bottom of the pan along with a little bit of oil. I do like to add oil to my butter when I'm making fried potatoes or hash browns because it does raise the cooking temperature of the butter, so things aren't likely to burn. And then I have been liking using seasoned salt on my hash browns as well, so I added some of that. And then I'm just going to give these a stir, and these definitely take longer than you think they do. I cook them over medium high heat for probably about a good 20 minutes because I like them really crispy. Obviously you can do it to your liking, but I find that it takes longer than you think. Okay, so for the egg mixture for the breakfast bake, I'm just going to crack some eggs into this bowl. I'm running out of eggs, guys. I don't have a backup dozen in my garage fridge. What is going on? I need to get to the store ASAP. But I think I used 5 or 6 eggs for this amount of potatoes. This made 4 servings, I think, of breakfast bowls. So yeah, that's about right. I'm gonna pour some milk into there just to mix up the eggs with, and some salt and pepper. And you could also add other seasonings to your egg mixture at this point. Some people add mustard, that would be good. You could also add mustard powder, hot sauce, whatever you would like. So after the hash browns are done cooking, I just like to scoot those out to the sides of the pan, and I make kind of a well in the middle and pour the eggs into there. And this nonstick pan that I have from Misen is my OG. It's my favorite. Eggs hardly ever stick to it. So I'm just going to take the eggs and kind of scramble them in the middle of the potatoes. And then once they are cooked, I'll mix everything together. Okay, so once the eggs are cooked, I just kind of gave those a chop, and I'm just mixing everything together, the potatoes and the eggs. And then I'm going to add some shredded cheese to the top. Like I said, I'm using cheddar cheese, but you could use American, or shredded pepper jack would be really good on top of this as well. And then on top of that, I'm going to add the bacon crumbles, and I just like to turn the heat off then, and then I cover this with some foil. And on this particular morning, Adam and Connor ended up eating half of this, and then I had the other 2 servings to put into containers. So I'm just adding my breakfast bowls to these glass containers. I really prefer using glass containers, especially when I'm heating things up in the microwave. If it's a cold item that I'm prepping, I use plastic. It's not that big of a deal to me, but I'm just going to split this up and put them into the 2 containers. And this is what this looked like. This recipe is super versatile. You can make it with sweet potatoes too if you want. You can make it meat free, or you can make it with any type of breakfast meat you have on hand. You could use sausage, bacon, Canadian bacon, ham. You could use a lot of different things. You could put veggies in here, mushrooms, peppers, whatever you have, but it's just something that's really family friendly, everyone loves, and it's great to have these in the fridge for breakfast throughout the week. Okay, so we are going to make some jalapeno poppers. These are super simple, but it's a great thing to have on hand in the fridge for a weeknight side dish if you'd like. And if you're doing low carb, this is also something really great to make. I've gotten a couple comments recently for more low carb recipes, so I will plan some of those videos out. But what I do is I just cut the jalapenos in half. I cut the tops off, or the stem part, and then I just scoop the seeds and the ribs out with a spoon over the trash. And this doesn't have to be perfect. Obviously you can see that I still leave a little bit of seeds left in there, not a big deal, but the seeds and the ribs are what holds most of the heat in the jalapenos. So if you don't want them to be super spicy, go ahead and take those out. And then I'm just going to use the other half of the block of that cream cheese to stuff these with. I believe I had 4 jalapenos, so 8 halves, and 4 ounces of cream cheese left, and this worked out just great. So about half an ounce, or I would say maybe like a little bit more than a tablespoon of cream cheese in each one. You can also use flavored cream cheese if you want to, if you have like garden vegetable or jalapeno or pineapple cream cheese. I've heard all of those are good. So I'm just going to scoop those into the halves, and then the last step for these is to wrap them with bacon. So the bacon that I am using is a center cut bacon, and it's a little bit shorter than regular bacon is. So sometimes, depending on the size of the peppers and the size of the bacon, I will cut the bacon strips in half before I wrap them around. It just kind of depends, but these peppers were larger, and since the bacon was shorter, it worked out just fine. And I did add some parchment paper to the bottom of my baking dish. That helps. Just when you cook bacon in a glass dish in the oven without anything in the bottom of it, it makes a holy living mess. Like, you will end up having to soak that pan for like days before you can scrape the stuff off the bottom. So just wrap these up. You can use toothpicks if you want to secure them, but I don't really find that necessary. I just kind of wrap them around and stick the bacon to the cream cheese, and it all works out in the end. All right, so here's what our poppers look like. I'm just going to cover these up with some foil, stick them in the fridge. They'll keep in the fridge for 3 to 4 days, and then when I want to bake them, I can just pop them in the oven until they are done. So let's review what we got done. We got our chili done, our burrito bowls, our cupcakes, jalapeno peppers. We cut up some veggies. I wanted to do some veggies and hummus, but I didn't have time for that today, but I also got a few other things done that weren't on my list. So thank you guys for being here for this meal prep video. Don't forget to check out Fuzzy. I'll have all the information in the description box below. You can go to that link to get your free 7-day trial membership. Thanks again for being here and for coming along with me on another meal prep video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.